Gentlemen, what is going on today? My name is Ryan Mickler. I'm your host and the founder of the Order of Man podcast and movement, and I want to welcome you here. I know last week's Friday Field Notes was a replay from, I believe it was about a year ago. I had some things going on in my life and some things that I've been working through on a personal and a relational front that I want to make sure I poured my heart and soul and attention and energy into. And I'm still doing that, and I will continue to do that. And that actually ties nicely with what I want to talk with you about today, which is this concept of balance, specifically this idea of work-life balance and how difficult that can be for men, especially high-achieving men, guys who want to thrive, guys who want to win, guys who want to go out there and make a difference, and then also equally, if not hopefully more so, want to lead their families and want to serve their wife and serve their children and walk hand in hand with their wife through this thing that we call life. That becomes increasingly difficult as we start to realize the objects of our desire, because along with the success that we achieve, we also have more opportunities that are presented to us, some of those righteous and worthy opportunities, and some aren't, that are designed to tempt and distract from what it is we truly want. And we're constantly wrestling with this idea of giving the right amount of time and energy and attention and resources to our professional lives and also our personal lives. So we're going to talk about that. Before we get into that, just want to mention my friends over at Origin USA. Now, this is a company that's a manufacturing company that is making everything in America. All of their products, goods, services, 100% sourced and made in America, and they're bringing back American manufacturing. They're going to be releasing their hunt line either they released it this week or next week. I've been a little out of the loop because of this work-life balance thing I'm going to talk with you about here in a minute. But it's coming up very quickly. If you want to know about it and you want to be notified when they go live with their brand new 100% made and sourced in America hunt line, go to originusa.com/hunt, originusa.com/hunt. Good friends of mine, obviously sponsors of the show, but I believe wholeheartedly in what they're doing and I want to support them. And I think you probably do as well, including America. All right, let's talk about this. I titled this Balance is a Verb. And I titled it that because I think that most of us tend to believe intuitively that balance is some place. It's like a noun, right? We arrive at this place of balance when we equally distribute, or not even equally, but we distribute our attention, time, energy, and resources exactly perfectly based on what our objectives are. That isn't true. And the reason that isn't true is because the minute you feel like you're hitting strides and you're distributing your resources in the correct allocation towards the things that you want, something happens, right? A fire shows up at work and you have to put that fire out. And so now you have to neglect your family. Or something happens within the family dynamic that now all of a sudden you can't focus so heavily at work and you've got to pour more energy, time, resources, et cetera, into your family life. And you thought you had it all figured out. At least I've been there. I thought I had everything figured out. And it turns out that, well, I don't. And so you need to reevaluate where you're putting all of those resources. And that's why I say balance is a verb, because it's not some place that we achieve or some final destination, but it's an action that we take on a daily basis based on internal and external factors that we're confronted with. So the best analogy that I've been able to come up with is I want you to imagine for a second that you're either surfing or snowboarding or maybe skateboarding. Most people tend to believe that if balance is this perfect distribution, that eventually we find the perfect formula, that we can just step on the surfboard or the skateboard or the snowboard and distribute our weight front to back, left to right, exactly correctly, and then we never have to pivot. But if you've ever surfed or skateboarded or snowboarded, you know that in order to get onto the wave and stand up and ride that wave, or to get from the top of the hill down to the bottom of the hill, you're going to be presented with a series of circumstances. It's going to be the forces of the water, or a mound in the snow, or a tree that you need to move out of the way, or another surfer that happens to cut you off on the wave. there's a lot of external factors that frankly are beyond our control. And so what do we do when we're faced with one of those factors? Well, if you're on the snowboard, you lean, right? You lean left or you lean right. You turn towards the hill, you turn away from the hill, you lean back, you lean forward, but you're constantly moving. It's a series of thousands and thousands of little adjustments in your hips and bending the knees and leaning this way and leaning that way and putting your arms up to stabilize. And if you do it correctly, you don't wipe out and you make it to the bottom of the hill. Or if you're on the surfboard, you ride the wave successfully and you drop off the board and you paddle back out there and you do it again. This is life. Life is going to throw us all sorts of curveballs. We're going to be tempted with things. We're going to have marital issues. We're going to have a hard time communicating with our spouses. We're going to have issues at work. Somebody's going to try to harm you or your family. Maybe there's a medical condition. Maybe one of your kids is going through a rough time and has self-confidence issues. Perhaps you got into a car accident, or there's a lawsuit or a potential bankruptcy and financial troubles. I mean, I don't mean to be all doom and gloom here, but the reality is every single one of us has faced at least one, if not all of these circumstances in our lives. And if we think that, man, if I just put the right amount towards my kids and I just put the right amount towards my wife and I just put the right amount towards my business, then I'll be happy. Then I will have unlocked this door to success and fulfillment. It isn't like that, guys. Balance is a verb. It's something that you do on a daily basis. So how do you decide? Well, I think first and foremost, you have to know what your objective is and you have to know what your priorities are, right? If you're surfing, if we're going to take that analogy and you're surfing and you want to successfully ride a wave from where you are to the shore, that might be a little different than if you want to, do some tricks or something. I'm not a surfer, so I don't know. Or get in the barrel of the wave. Like, again, I'm not a surfer, so I don't know. But you have to know what your priorities are. Is your priority your family? Is your priority your work? Should be both. Probably it is to some degree. But a priority is like, what is your priority? What is number one? And frankly, I've lost sight of that over the past couple of years. Certainly throughout the rest of my life, I've lost sight of that. And I've had to pay the piper on some of those things. But I don't want that to happen. So the first thing that for me anymore at all, and I don't want that to happen for you. So the first thing that we need to do is really determine what it is that we want and what our priorities are, and then how we're going to show up. Because we can't really come up with a course of action on a day-to-day basis or even have some sort of a litmus test to measure our daily actions against what it is that we actually want. So if I know I want my family to be my priority, I'll give you an example. This coming up weekend, we have our Origins immersion camp. It's a week-long jiu-jitsu camp. And I do what I call a pre-immersion dinner. So every Saturday night before Sunday is when immersion camp starts. Every Saturday night, I have some of the guys over in Order Man and Iron Council to my place, and we have dinner. So we set this up. I invited about 8, 9, 10 guys over. Most of them were able to make it, and it was going to be great. Come to find out, my oldest son has a scrimmage. Okay, so now I have a decision to make. Balance is a verb, right? Okay, so do I do the thing with the guys? I mean, I committed to doing that. Do I do that with the guys? I invited them all over. I told them we were doing it. Some of them have created plans. Or do I do the thing with my son? Well, what's my priority? It's my son. My priority is my family. So I made the not so difficult decision, and it really wasn't a difficult decision to make. I made the not so difficult decision, to call up the guys and say, look, guys, I'm sorry. I have a conflict. I didn't realize it's my son's scrimmage. I'm not going to miss that. If I'm here in town or at all, I want to be here for that and available for him. And so we got to pivot. We're going to do a Sunday morning early lunch. And here are the details. Okay, that's balance, right? It would have been nice to be able to distribute equally my time and attention and energy, but that's not what life presented me. Life presented me an opportunity to watch my son play football, so I'm going to take advantage of that opportunity. And then I'm going to make that my priority. But I know what it is. And again, I've lost sight of that. I don't want to make any qualms about that. I don't want you to think that I have this all figured out. I don't want you to think that I'm better at this stuff than you, or I know more about it than you. I mean, I might know more about some things. You might know more about some things. I struggle just like you guys do. But when I implement the things that I'm talking about with you, my life is just better. It's just better. So again, the first thing is know what you want. So you have something to measure your actions against. And then you evaluate, right? You're going to know. I was in Hawaii several months ago and I had this plan for a year. Well, my daughter had her dance recital that got scheduled after my Hawaii hunt. And unfortunately, I made the wrong decision. I went to Hawaii. I stayed in Hawaii and, I didn't come see the recital. And I've felt really guilty about that. I felt really bad about it. In fact, I still feel guilty about that. I bought her flowers. I had the flowers shipped to her the day of the recital. And, I did what I could, but I think I should have made a different decision. Not I think I should have. I should have made a different decision. And it's painful in a way. It doesn't maybe sound like it's a huge issue, but it's painful. It hurts that I didn't do the right thing in that instance. And that's okay. None of us want to feel pain. None of us want to experience that, but it is okay that I feel that because now I remember that when my kids have a thing, I want to be there for them. And so that evaluation of does this feel right? Sometimes we as men don't really tap into our feelings. We're very logical, I think, by nature, more so maybe than our fairer counterparts. And so we're logical about it. Well, she'll have more dance recitals and I can catch the video and I've had this planned for so long and this makes sense. And if I didn't come, I'm wasting all that money on the travel. I mean, there's a lot of considerations that we can rationalize, but I think we ought to tap into, our intuitive nature. And I'm not saying your feminine side or being overly emotional. I'm saying tap into your intuitive feeling side of things and realize that if you have a feeling that you should do something, maybe that's something to consider. Hey, I really feel like I want to be there at my daughter's recital. Okay, well, you ought to take that with some weight and really consider that maybe that's what you should be doing. Okay, so we prioritize, we come up with an idea of what we want, we evaluate our performance. Hey, how did you feel about switching the thing from the guys to the next day and going to your son's football game? Well, I know I'm going to feel good. I know that was the right decision. How did you feel about missing your daughter's dance recital? Well, I feel bad about that. Okay, now I know. And I'm going to remember those feelings, the positive vibes and the negative vibes and all of that so that I can make better decisions moving forward. And then we make those decisions, right? So we prioritize, we evaluate, we make our decisions, and we do the best we can. One of the hard parts for me about life is there's just not enough time and energy in my own personal life to do everything. I would love to do everything, but I can't. And so we have to be good at making decisions that are the right decisions. And very often we're going to be presented with two good decisions, two decisions that we could even justify or rationalize. And yet we have to choose one. We have to make the choice. But I would contend and suggest, and I'm speaking to myself just as much as I am to you, is that we make the right choice. And I think we know what the right choice is. And we try to, again, justify, excuse away, rationalize, come up with excuses as to why we didn't make the right choice. But I think inherently and intuitively, we all know what the right choice is. Now, remember, these are micro decisions. Some of them are macro decisions, but these are thousands and thousands of decisions on a daily basis. How do I spend my time? How do I spend my energy? What's the first thing I need to do? Who needs my time and attention? Like, tap into your people. How's your wife feeling? How are you feeling? What are your kids experiencing? How do they view you? Do they view you as favorable? Do they have resentment and animosity towards you? What about your clients? Are you neglecting them or your boss or your work? I mean, all of it's important. but really try to tap into the way other people are feeling, and maybe even to a degree attempt to put yourself in their shoes. And I think you're going to have a better time with work-life balance. Or a better phrase, I think, is just understanding that balance is a verb. It's something that we do on a continual basis, micro adjustments, day in and day out. And then we can look back on our lives or our day or our week and think, I did this week pretty good. It wasn't perfect, fell short in a lot of ways, made a lot of mistakes along the path, hurt people along the way, neglected responsibilities that I had both personally and professionally. But today, I did pretty good. This week, I did pretty good. This month, this year, I did pretty good because I realize that it's a daily process. It's a minute by minute process of continually balancing, shifting, adjusting, reprioritizing, evaluating, and making good decisions all the time. I know I'm not giving you a lot of advice that I haven't shared before. It's just something I want all of us to consider. Are we balancing? Is it the act of balancing, or are we trying to find the balance? I think finding the balance is significantly harder and maybe even impossible compared to the act of balancing. All right, guys, I hope that helps. If you have any other commentary, thoughts, ideas, questions, considerations, other topics you'd like me to touch and hit on at some point, message me on Instagram. That's where I'm most active, although I haven't been very active on there because I'm trying to balance and be more present and available for my family as opposed to getting bogged down on my phone and these other things. So hit me up there, shoot me an email. Remember, Origin's got their new hunt line dropping quick. We also have a merchandise store. I've got an Order a Man hat on right now. You can check it out, this hat and other hats and shirts and battle planners and all the things at store.orderofman.com. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you today. Go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.